Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. The old man and his grandson. There once was a very old man, whose eyes had become dim. His ears were dull of hearing, his knees trembled, and when he sat at table he could hardly hold the spoon, and spilt the broth upon the tablecloth, or let it run about his mouth. His son and his wife was disgusted at this, so the old grandfather was made to sit in the corner behind the stove, and they gave him his food in an earthenware bowl, and not even enough of it. And he used to look forward towards the table, with his eyes full of tears. Once, too, his trembling hands could not hold the bowl, and it fell to the ground and broke. The young wife scolded him, but he said nothing and only sighed. Then they brought him a wooden bowl, for a few halfpence, out of which he had to eat. They were once sitting thus when the little grandson of 4 years old began to gather together some bits of wood upon the ground. "What are you doing there?" asked the father. "I am making a little trough," answered the child, "for father and mother to eat out when I am big." The man and his wife looked at each other for a while, and presently began to cry. Then they took the old grandfather to the table, and henceforth always let him eat with them, and likewise said nothing if he did spell little of anything. The Valiant Little Tailor. One summer morning, a little tailor was sitting at his table by the window. He was in good spirits and sewed with all his might. Then came a peasant woman down the street crying, "Good jams, cheap, good jams, cheap." This rang pleasantly in the tailor's ear. He stretched his delicate head out the window and called, "Come up here, dear woman. Here you will get rid of your goods." The woman came up 3 steps to the tailor, with her heavy basket, and he made her unpack the whole of the pots for him. He inspected all of them and lifted them up and put them to his nose, and at length said, "The jam seems to me good, so weigh me out 4 ounces, dear woman, and if it is 1/4 of a pound, that is of no consequence." The woman, who had hoped to find a good sale, gave him what he desired. But when he went away, quite angry and grumbling, "Now God bless the jam to my use," cried the little tailor, "and give me health and strength." So he brought the bread out of the cupboard, and cut himself a piece right across the loaf, and spread the jam over it. "This won't taste bitter," said he, "but I will just finish the jacket before I take a bite." He laid the bread near him, and sewed on, and in his joy made bigger and bigger stitches. In the meantime the smell of the sweet jam ascended to the wall, where the flies were sitting in great numbers, that they were attracted to and descended on in 2 hosts. "Hola, who invited you?" said the little tailor, and drove the unbidden guests away. The flies, however, who understood no German, would not be turned away, and came back again in ever-increasing companies. The little tailor at last lost all patience, and got a bit of cloth from the hole under his work table, and saying, "Wait, and I will give it to you. Wait." struck it mercilessly on them, and when he drew it away and counted, there lay before him no fewer than 7, dead and with legs stretched out. "Art thou a fellow of that sort?" said he, and could not help admiring his own bravery. "The whole town shall know of this." And the little tailor hastened to cut himself a girdle, and stitched it, and embroidered on it in large letters, 7 at one stroke. "What the town?" he continued. "The whole world shall hear of it," and his heart wagged with joy like a lamb's tail. The tailor put on the girdle, and resolved to go forth into the world, because he thought his workshop was too small for his valor. Before he went away, he sought about the house to see if there was anything which he could take with him. However, he found nothing but an old cheese that he put in his pocket. In front of the door he observed a bird which had caught itself in a thicket. He had to go with his pocket with the cheese. Now he took to the road boldly, and as he was light and nimble, he felt no fatigue. The road led him up a mountain, and when he had reached the highest point of it, there sat a powerful giant looking about him, quite comfortably. The little tailor went bravely up, spoke to him, and said, "Good day, comrade. So thou art sitting there, overlooking the widespread world. I am just on my way thither, and want to try my luck. Hast thou any inclination to go with me?" The giant looked contemptuously at the tailor, and said, "Thou ragamuffin, thou miserable creature." "Oh, indeed?" answered the little tailor, and unbuttoned his coat, and showed the giant the girdle. "Thou mayest read what kind of man I am." The giant read 7 at one stroke, and thought they had been men whom the tailor had killed, and began to feel a little respect for the tiny fellow. Nevertheless, he wished to try him first, and took a stone in his hand and squeezed it together so that the water dropped out of it. "Do that likewise," said the giant, "if thou hast strength." "Is that all?" said the tailor. "That is child's play with us," and put his hand into his pocket, and brought forth soft cheese, and pressed it until liquid ran out of it. "Faith," said he, "that was a little better, wasn't it?" The giant did not know what to say, and could not believe it of the little man. Then the giant picked up a stone, and threw it so high that the eye could scarcely follow. "Now, little mite of a man, do that likewise." "Well thrown," said the tailor, "but after all the stone came down to earth again. I will throw you one which shall never come back at all." And he put his hand in his pocket and took out the bird, and it threw into the air. The bird, delighted with its liberty, rose and flew away and did not come back. "How does that shot please you, comrade?" asked the tailor. "Thou canst certainly throw," said the giant, "but now we will see if thou art able to carry anything properly." He took the little tailor to a mighty oak tree, which lay there felled on the ground, and said, "If thou art strong enough, help me carry the tree out of the forest." Readily. It's like if Hercule was in the past, but actually, less arrogant. "Readily," answered the little man. "Take thou the trunks on thy shoulders, and I will raise up the branches and twigs. After all, they are the heaviest." The giant took the trunk on his shoulders, but the tailor seated himself on a branch, and the giant, who could not look round, had to carry away the whole tree and the little tailor into the bargain. He behind was quite merry and happy, and whistled along. 3 tailors rode forth from the gate, as if they were carrying the tree were child's play. And the giant, after he had dragged the heavy burden part of the way, could go no further, and cried, "Hark you, I shall have to let the tree fall." And the tailor sprang nimbly down, and seized the tree with both arms, as if he had been carrying it, and said to the giant, "Thou art such a great fellow, and yet canst not even carry the tree?" They went on together, and as they passed a cherry tree, the giant laid hold of the top of the tree, where the ripest fruit was hanging, bent it down, and gave it to the tailor's hand, and bade him eat. But the little tailor was much too weak to hold the tree, and when the giant let it go, it sprang back up again, and the tailor was hurried into the air. When he had fallen down again without injury, the giant said, "What is this? Hast thou not strength enough to hold the weak twig?" "There is no lack of strength," answered the little tailor. "Dost thou think that could be anything to a man who has struck down 7 at one blow? I leapt over the tree because the huntsmen are shooting down there in the thicket, just as I did, if thou canst do it." Jump as I did, if thou canst do it. The giant made the attempt, but could not get over the tree, and remained hanging in the branches, so that the tailor kept the upper hand. I feel like this is a Hercule of the Grimm's fairy tale. That's pretty hilarious. Though I think the earlier story, being as short as it is, might actually work better as an actual short, which I know I don't do very many of those, but maybe I should do a short. Though it's mainly just been movie ideas like Jeff Dunham as a ventriloquist for Batman, or Willem Dafoe as an anti-villain that beats the shit out of Jared Leto Joker. So where was I? The giant said, "If thou art such a valiant fellow, come with me into our cavern and spend the night with us." The little tailor was willing and followed him. When they went into the cave, other giants were sitting there by the fire, and each of them had a roasted sheep in his hand and was eating it. The little tailor looked around and thought, "It is much more spacious here than in my workshop." The giant showed him a bed and said he was to lie down in it and sleep. The bed, however, was too big for the little tailor. He did not lie down in it, but crept into a corner. When it was midnight, the giant thought the little tailor was lying in a sound sleep. He got up and took a great iron bar and cut through the bed with one blow, and thought that he had given the grasshopper his finishing stroke. With the earliest dawn, the giants went into the forest and had quite forgotten the little tailor, when all at once he walked up to them quite merrily and boldly. And the giants were terrified. They were afraid that he would strike them all dead, and ran away in great hurry. The little tailor went onwards, always following his own pointed nose. After he had walked for a long time, he came to the courtyard of a royal palace, and as he felt weary, he lay down on the grass and fell asleep. Whilst he lay there, the people came and inspected him on all sides, and read on his girdle 7 at one stroke. "Ah," said they, "what does the great warrior here in the midst of peace? He must be a mighty lord." They went and announced him to the king, and gave it as their opinion that if war should break out, this should be a weighty and useful man, who ought of no account to be allowed to depart. The counsel pleased the king, and he sent out of his courtiers to the little tailor to offer him military service when he woke. The ambassador remained standing by the sleeper, waited until he stretched his limbs and opened his eyes, and then he conveyed to him their proposal. "For this very reason I have come here," the tailor replied. "I am ready to enter the king's service." He was therefore honorably received, and a special dwelling was assigned him. The soldiers, however, were set against the little tailor, and wished him 1,000 miles away. "What is to be the end of this?" they said amongst themselves. "If we quarrel with him and he strikes about him, 7 of us will fall with every blow. Not one of us can stand against him." They came, therefore, to a decision, betook themselves in a body to the king, and begged for their dismissal. "We are not prepared," said they, "to stay with a man who kills 7 at one stroke." The king was sorry that for the sake of one he should lose all his faithful servants, wished that he had never set eyes on the tailor, and would willingly have been rid of him again. But he did not venture to give him his dismissal, for he dreaded lest he should strike him and all his people dead, and place himself on the royal throne. He thought about it for a long time, and at last found good counsel. He sent to the little tailor, and caused him to be informed that he was such a great warrior. He had one request to make to him. In a forest country lived 2 giants who caused great mischief with their robbing, murdering, ravaging, and burning. And no one could... Yeah, they really do. Robbing really does mean cannibalism. Like, it keeps getting used in certain phrasing. So... Okay. Without putting himself in danger of death. If the tailor conquered and killed these 2 giants, he would give him his only daughter to wife and half of the kingdom as a dowry. Likewise, 100 horsemen should go with him to assist him. That would indeed be a fine thing for a man like me, though the little tailor, one is not offered a beautiful princess and half a kingdom every day of one's life. "Oh yes," he replied, "I will soon subdue the giants, and do not require the help of 100 horsemen to do it. He who can hit 7 with one blow has no need to be afraid of 2. The little tailor went forth, and the 100 horsemen followed him. When he came to the outskirts of the forest, he said to his followers, "Just stay waiting here. I alone will soon finish off the giants. Then he bounded into the forest and looked about right and left. After a while he perceived both giants. They lay sleeping under a tree, and snored so that the branches waved up and down. The little tailor, not idle, gathered 2 pockets full of stones, and with these climbed up the tree. And when he was halfway up, he slipped down by a branch until he sat just above the sleepers. And for a long time the giant felt nothing. But at last he awoke and pushed his comrade and said, "Why art thou knocking me?" "Thou must be dreaming," said the other. "I am not knocking thee. They have laid themselves down to sleep again." And then the tailor threw a stone on the second. "What is the meaning of this?" cried the other. "Why art thou pelting me?" "I am not pelting thee," answered the first. Growling, they disputed out for a while, but as they were weary, they let the matter rest, and their eyes closed once more. The little tailor began this game again, picked out the biggest stone, and threw it with all his might at the breast of the first giant. "That is too bad," cried he, and sprang up like a madman and pushed his companion against the tree until it shook. The other paid him back in some coin, and then they got into such a rage that they tore up the trees and bellabored each other so long that at last they both fell down dead on the ground at the same time. Then the little tailor leaped down. "It is a lucky thing," said he, "that they did not tear up the tree on which I was sitting, or I should have sprung onto another like a squirrel. But we tailors are nimble." He drew out his sword and gave each of them a couple thrusts in the breast, and then went out to the horsemen and said, "The work is done. I have given both of them their finishing stroke." But it was hard work. They tore up the trees in their sore need, and defended themselves with them. But all that is to no purpose when a man like myself comes, who can kill 7 at one blow. "But are you not wounded?" asked the horseman. "You need not concern yourself about that," answered the tailor. "They have not bent 1 hair of mine." The horsemen would not believe him, and rode into the forest. There they found the giants swimming in their blood, and all round about lay the torn-up trees. The little tailor demanded the king the promised reward. The king, however, repented of his promise, and again bethought himself how he could get rid of the hero. "Before thou receivest my daughter and half of my kingdom," said he, "thou must perform one more heroic deed. In the forest roams a unicorn, which does great harm, and thou must catch it." Is there a unicorn roaming in the forest stabbing people? "I fear 1 unicorn still less than 2 giants. 7 at one blow is my kind of affair." He took a rope of an axe with him, went forth into the forest, and again bade those who were sent with him to wait outside. He had not to seek long. The unicorn soon came towards him, and rushed directly on the tailor, as if it would spit him on his horn, without more ceremony. "Softly, softly, it can't be done as quickly as that," said he, and stood and still, and waited until the animal was quite close, and then sprang nimbly behind the tree. What is he using? Fucking Ultra Instinct? We got fucking Ultra Instinct Hercule here. Freaking Ultra Instinct Mr. Satan. Okay. Damn. The unicorn ran against the tree with all its strength, and struck its horn so fast in the trunk that it had not the strength to draw it out again, and thus it was caught. "Now I have got the bird," said the tailor, and come out from behind the tree and put the rope around its neck, and then with an axe he hewed the horn out of the tree. And when all this was ready, he led the beast away and took it to the king. And the king still would not give him the promised reward, and made a third demand. Before the wedding, the tailor was to catch him a wild boar that made a great havoc in the forest, and the huntsmen should give him their help. "Willingly," said the tailor. "That is child's play." He did not take the huntsmen with him into the forest. They were well pleased that he did not, for the wild boar had several times received them in such manner that they had no inclination to lie in wait for him. When the boar perceived the tailor, it ran on him with foaming mouth and whetted tusks, and was about to throw him to the ground. But the active hero sprang into a chapel, which was near, and up to the window at once, and in one bound out again. The boar ran in after him, but the tailor ran outside, and shut the door behind it. Then the raging beast, which was much too heavy and awkward to leap out of the window, was caught. The little tailor called his huntsmen thither, that they might see the prisoner with their own eyes. The hero, however, went to the king, who was now, whether he liked it or not, obliged to keep his promise, and gave him his daughter and half of his kingdom. Had he known that it was no warlike hero, but a little tailor who was standing before him, it would have gone to his heart still more than it did. The The wedding was held with the wedding was held with great magnificence and small joy, and out of a tailor a king was made. After some time, the young queen heard her husband say in his dreams at night, "Boy, make me a doublet and patch the pantaloons, or else I will wrap the yard measure over thine ears." What does that even fucking mean? Also, this is in his sleep. So, it makes more sense that he's repeating a memory from his own childhood. So, even after everything he's done, I mean, granted, yes, he's not, fucking Hercules, but he's used his mind to actually mind and bravery to actually accomplish great feats. And this is, the father of her child, and he's been good to her. And now she's finding out, oh, he was actually poor when he was young. Also, he was abused. Oh, but now you hate him? Then she discovered in what state of life the young lord had been born. The next morning complained of her wrongs to her father and begged him to help her get rid of her husband, who was nothing else but a tailor. So yeah, you're literally judging him because he was born poor and was treated like shit as a child. Oh, it's like you're a peasant and people beat you as, like, what the fuck? The king comforted her and said, "Leave thy bedroom door open." You're plotting to murder your husband. What? Because he's poor. Because he was born to a poor family and was treated like shit as a child. The fuck? "Leave thy bedroom door open this night, and my servant shall stand outside, and when he has fallen asleep, shall go in, bind him, and take him out on the board of the ship, which shall carry him into the wide world." The woman was satisfied with this, but the king's armor-bearer, who had heard all, was friendly with the young lord, and informed him of the whole plot. "I'll put a screw into that business," said the little tailor. At night he went to bed with his wife at the usual time, and when she thought that he had fallen asleep, she got up and opened the door, and then lay down again. The little tailor was only pretending to sleep, began to cry out in a clear voice, "Boy, make me the doublet and patch me the pantaloons, or I will wrap the yard measure over thine ears. I smote 7 at one blow, I killed 2 giants, I brought away 1 unicorn and caught a wild boar, and I am to fear those who are standing outside my room?" And when these men heard the tailor speaking thus, they were overcome by a great dread, and ran as if a wild huntsman were behind him, and none of them would venture anything further against him. So the little tailor was a king, and remained one to the end of his life. I think I will do that one thing as a short. Later, guys.